Morgan.
Hi, Natalie. How are you doing?
Good. Welcome to the What podcast. And oh, the cat's here with us. Okay, we'll see how that goes.
Special guest.
Special guest, Morgan and the cat. I'm going to invite you to introduce yourself, and and then we'll get started.
Awesome. My name is Morgan Patzelt. I am a leader in the tech industry and have been for the last decade or so, really focusing in education tech, so developing apps and services and products for teachers to use in the classroom. So I'm currently the director of product at an ed tech company called Shoby, and actually have my last day there on Friday. And then I am off on my own, starting my own business, which I attribute a lot of that courage and strength and readiness to the coaching program that I just finished up last week. So lots of change happening in my life right now.
Yeah, well, congratulations, first of all, on finishing a 28-week program. That was, it's a big commitment. Lots of energy, resource, time, right?
Mhm.
And also, I had the privilege of being your facilitator, so we got to hear you got engaged. I think during the program, didn't
Yes.
you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then well, tell me about the decision to leave your current role.
Yeah, it had been something that I felt was in the back of my mind for a long time, something that I knew I wanted to do at some point, but I really truly loved the mission of my company. I still really do. They've given me a ton of opportunity to move up within this startup. So every time I kind of got the urge to jump, a new position was offered to me or a new challenge or something along those lines. But going through the course, and I feel like, getting to the root of fears and having to talk about so many different things over the coaching sessions, I realized that I was holding myself back and, yeah, made the decision over the Christmas break that I was going to start putting things into place, kind of give myself 6 months to try and figure things out. And I made it one day, the first day back after Christmas. I had a conversation with my CEO and decided that it was time to move on to something else. So I gave them about 3 months notice. So I've been with them for this entire quarter, trying to help ease that transition, leave on a really good note. I'd been with the company for almost 8 years. And given that it was a really tiny startup when we started, kind of my presence and work that I've done was so intertwined in everything related to the company. So trying to figure out how to pass on my legacy and make sure everyone is going to be fine without me. I'm glad that I had the time to do that. And I feel, especially this week, in a really good place that they're going to be fine, I'm going to be fine, and we can all move on to this next exciting adventure.
So then, what was it? Something about the coaching mindset, or what was your intention actually coming into the program that you wanted to create?
Yeah. So for me, I really believe that, especially in the corporate world, when things like performance reviews really encourage people to focus on their weaknesses and improving their weaknesses. And I actually believe that we should be doing the opposite, that we should be 10xing the skills that really are the ones that are making us stand out right now and not spend so much time on our weaknesses, get them to a place where they're not sticking out and where they're not holding you back, but really invest in the areas that bring you the most joy and that you feel you're the best at. And for me, that was people management. It's something I had always really loved. It was something that I feel like I kind of just saw differently than other people, and really, like, that's what brought me a ton of joy at work. And so that's actually why I came into coaching, was because I saw it as an opportunity to make me an even better people manager, to be able to listen and really hear my team, be able to have them kind of work through these problems. And so that was my intention, was just to kind of upskill for my current position, but then through the skills that we built throughout the program, saw the opportunity that I could actually take this on the road and do it myself.
Oh, interesting. So it kind of evolved for you as you came through the program. What role did peer coaching have in that, I wonder? Because I know that you had a really great group to move through the
Mhm.
program with, and I heard you say you were coached a few times by your peers. What would you say was the role of that coaching? Yeah.
Yeah, that I think was like my favorite part of the whole
Mm.
program. The relationships that we built with the classmates like were really really strong. Talk with most of them every single week, and so you get both the opportunity to coach your peers, but as a result, you also have to be coached quite a bit. So you have to keep coming up with topics over and over again to have valuable content that is actually worthy of being coached. And so you really have to, after the first couple of weeks, really dig deep into the crevices of your soul, of all those things you're holding back and what you really have been maybe avoiding. That's kind of how I felt, was that this was something that I knew I wanted to do, something that I knew I'd be really good at, but had just kind of been putting it off and putting it off. So I think after enough conversations and getting that practice, and also seeing everyone else kind of building their own businesses and having really great success as well, kind of a little bit of jealousy or fear of missing out, where you're like, I want to do that too. So yeah, the peer coaching that you get with your cohort, as well as just like those relationships, we do a lot together. Everyone comes from such diverse backgrounds that we all work really closely to upskill all of our businesses and take all of our separate experience, and kind of combine that together. Like, we have some really great like HR professionals, so when I quit my job, I'm like on the phone with them, like, what do I need to do, like what are the things I need to think about. But then I'm also like the resident tech support for our
Yeah.
cohort, so I get a lot of requests around like, which software should I use, or what should I
Yeah.
look for in the different tooling, things like that. And then we have really great like business development experience within our group as well. And so it's been really cool to not only coach each other, but also kind of help everyone set up their businesses to be really successful in the future.
Yeah, you really had a nice blend of different backgrounds in your cohort. Um, and so when you think about, you came into coaching as a leader, wanting to develop some skill, maybe more leadership skills. I often think of coaching as like a linguistic tool where it helps us become better communicators. And by that I mean that others respond better when you're asking open-ended questions, when you're pausing, you're inviting room for others to speak. What would you say is one or two things that stand out for you in terms of, like, what did this program do for you as a communicator, as a leader?
I would say the biggest piece is, um, especially when people are acting what seems irrational in a corporate setting, where you're just like, I just don't see why we can't see eye to eye. Like, why are they pushing this particular issue, to like be able to take a step back and look at like, just kind of question, like, typically when people are acting strange, there's some fear behind it. And I think that's what we really learned. So like, to see and take a step back and be like, okay, like, what could be driving, like, what are they afraid of, what are they trying to get out of this interaction. So I think it gave me better skills at reading people and what their intentions might be with some of the actions or words that they're using, but also just that one-on-one communication as well, where I found like the observational pieces was really great with other stakeholders, other leaders in the company, but the one-on-one stuff has been so valuable on my team, and just like letting them figure things out themselves, giving them space, not telling them my own opinion or advice right away, and getting them to kind of come up with their own approaches to things, I think has made them a really resilient team, and also has made kind of me transitioning out of this company even more effective as well, where they're able to solve their own problems. They always have been, and they just need to kind of work through some of their thoughts, but they are an incredibly capable and impactful team. And I think just having this little bit of coaching in there has made them even more kind of autonomous and independent, and able to drive impact without needing layers and layers of am I doing the right thing? Is this okay? Do you agree with this? They're able to make their own decisions, and which ultimately makes my job so much easier because those are decisions that typically would have landed on my desk. And now they have that experience of moving these decisions forward themselves, but also that frees up my time to work on other more impactful things that keep the team running or upskilling the team in other areas. So it was one thing that I found has really set up my team for success now that I'm leaving, and has really made a really strong, resilient, independent team.
Mm. Yeah, it's so interesting. And I think, well, just on the topic of teams, I remember your presentation about like what was next for you. I think you mentioned developing a course or something around team coaching. What do you think is the opportunity in team coaching?
I love team coaching. I think a big thing that companies struggle with is that alignment piece. And as someone who kind of moved up through the ranks of a small company, I have really strong ties to a lot of the individual contributors on the team, but then obviously strong ties to management and what we're doing on like the executive team. And to see the disconnect is something that I've always really struggled with, where I think there's such great opportunities to align those two groups. And again, when you do that, it creates really autonomous, independent, capable teams that are able to drive this mission home without needing so many checks and balances, without needing so much oversight or micromanagement. They're able to just execute and do and think about things in a really cool perspective, because everyone comes from different backgrounds and bring unique ideas on how to approach these problems. So if we're really clear in a company about what are the problems that we're trying to solve and what is most important, and making sure everyone is, driving down that same road, then it allows people to come up with really creative solutions and execute them autonomously. So I see that as a big opportunity for team coaching, is to really make sure that everyone is on the same page
Mm.
and everyone knows exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it and what we're focusing on, and especially what we're not focusing on. So what are we choosing to set aside for the time being in order to um, attack bigger opportunities?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. That the ability to kind of step back and see the whole system versus like the micro views that we tend to have as individuals on the team. And if a team leader is not good at communicating the overall objectives of not just the company, but the team itself and the other teams that you're working with, it becomes an issue, I think, of engagement and also people really figuring out like what is important to them. What do they, what's part of their value system? Like, why are they there? What do they want to contribute? Um, and that's when you're talking, it's interesting because you were a leader leading a team in what sounds like a very entrepreneurial kind of startup environment. Um, and now you're moving to, I guess, become, I'm assuming, an external team coach. Would that be correct? So, what do you think the differences will be? So, from the leadership position of it's your team and you're coaching your team to you're an external team coach.
Yeah, I feel like they are completely different games. They utilize a lot of same skills, but I think there's advantages to both. Like with my own team now, we've built a really, really strong relationship. They really trust me. I really trust them. We're able to speak openly in a team coaching setting. And also I've been doing a lot of one-on-one coaching kind of throughout the company as well. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I have really strong relationships with these people, which, sets a great space of trust and safety. We can jump right in and get to the root of the problems here. But on the flip side, as an external coach, you're coming in with no bias, with no um, kind of preconceived notion or relationships with these people that you're working with. So it's a lot easier to take on that kind of beginner's mindset where you don't know these people, you're not making assumptions about them. It is tricky in a company setting where you're internal, that when people are sharing in a coaching session about especially someone else, it's like you obviously know who that person is, and you have your own relationships with them or your own experiences with them that might be similar or completely different to what this other person is experiencing. And so it gives you good context as a coach, but it also gives you a lot of bias as well. So it's really cool. The external piece, you get to come in, be that beginner, really get curious about what are the problems within this company, and not make assumptions about things, which I think you can come in with a fresh perspective for them, which can be really valuable. I also think the other side of this too is once you're in a company for a long time, you have a lot of opinions on things, and it's hard sometimes to discern what is the most important opinion that you have on things. Which hill are you willing to die on here, essentially?
Mm.
But as an external coach, when you come in and give, this is my perspective of things, this is how I see things are going, these maybe are some of the struggles, you're hearing it from a fresh voice as well, from an external person who, again, doesn't have that baggage or those connections with these people. And so I think sometimes the recommendations can be taken with a bit more validity as well, when you're coming in as an external coach, because they've hired you, they've paid you to be here. So they obviously want your opinion. And it's not to say that my own company doesn't value my opinion, but I think sometimes it gets lost in just the sea of opinions that everyone has within a company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh, there's so many things that you've said that I want to touch on, but one of them that stands out is that objectivity of being an external coach, and that because when we're coaching our own teams, first of all, it's tough. We can use coach approaches, but we can't really coach because it's not a partnership of equals, right? There's this hierarchy, there's expectations of a leader that a leader has. So as the external coach, you can come in more objective, and I feel like mirror and witness the team as a system and see what are the opportunities to bring more cohesion to that team and
Mm-hmm.
clarify, like you said, those goals, performance goals. Um, so when you think about the leaders you're working with, who's your market? Like I think I remember you talking about well, you brought in your mission. What's your mission statement?
Oh, I actually don't have it written down in front of me, but my short version of it for the
Yeah.
podcast here is I'm really trying to make work not suck, is the long and short of it. I think there is a lot that we can do within the workplace today that will still drive really good results, but also, be really good and build a really strong community for the people who work here. I think in kind of this post-pandemic world, especially, I work in a completely remote company, that we've gotten distanced from each other. There's less of that kind of like water cooler chat, and you're a lot more isolated from everyone. And I think it's easy then for you to just get wrapped up in, just the cogs of your job without thinking about like having some fun and connecting with the people and sharing ideas with the other people at the company and getting different perspectives and things like that. So what I'm planning to do with my business is really start by tackling people management. So for me, this was a full circle moment because, like I said, this is why I got into coaching at
Mm-hmm.
all. But to me, there's too many bad bosses out there. Everyone probably has a story about a bad boss, because people get promoted because they were really good at a particular skill in their job as an individual contributor. So they were a coder or a writer or a marketer, and they were really good at that and got promoted, and now they have a team. But being a people leader is a completely different skill set than, say, being a developer. There's a lot of soft skills, a lot of social skills that you don't ever get taught this, and they don't teach you this when you get promoted either. You're kind of just thrown in the deep end, and our hope you can build the connections on your team to lead them effectively, because there's almost no resources out there for just an everyday people manager. A lot of the leadership content is directed towards executives, senior leaders, things like that, or
Mm-hmm.
people who aspire to be those. But a lot of people never even aspired to be a people manager. They just ended up with a team and now want to do right by their team and know the importance of like having a good boss makes such a big difference in, I feel like, your quality of life, your retention at work. the impact that your team is able to deliver. So I really believe that having strong people managers is going to make work suck less all around. So I want to start there and see where this kind of mission takes me into other creative areas. But for me, that's the big linchpin that I think we need to solve, is to provide training and resources so that people managers can take some of the coaching practices and use those on their own team. And just also, yeah, teach some of these soft skills and give them this new perspective of like, this is a completely different job than what you've done before. What you were doing before didn't prepare you for this, and you now need new skills. You need to rethink about your job and how you're attacking it and how you're empowering your team and what you're doing and what you're not doing. And I think there's going to be a lot of value in just upskilling your everyday people manager.
Mm-hmm. When you think about strong teams, what is the element? Like I heard you mention high trust, connection, different little keywords here and there. What do you think makes a strong team?
I think trust is huge. And I think in order to build, I think trust is like the core of it. And there's a lot of different ways to build trust, but a big piece of that is being vulnerable, and talking about especially the challenges that you're facing as a leader, especially as a new leader as well. So that one of the things you want to almost do is like, you know, not let anyone know that you have no idea what you're doing, the fake it till you make it, which is only making things worse. Whereas if you, I feel like, open up to your team and be like, look, like in my position, I went from like an individual contributor directly to director, same
Mm-hmm.
peers, same group. And so like one day I was their peer and the next day I am their leader. And so we had really open and honest conversations about like, okay, this is weird. Like, this is a weird shift. I was your peer yesterday and now I'm not. So how can we approach this? Like, what do you guys want from me? How do I see this relationship working? So we had a lot of really like raw conversations about how we were going to restructure this team. And this was after kind of 2 rounds of big layoffs at our company as well. So there were broken pieces everywhere and we were rebuilding. And so we did a lot to think about how we intentionally wanted to rebuild this team. And then the other thing that I really leaned on with my team was transparency. I tried to tell them everything that I could so that there were no gotchas, that they didn't know that were coming up that maybe would influence the decisions they're making today. I wanted to make sure that they saw the same picture that I saw and that they were able to make effective decisions again, so that they're able to do that autonomously without needing to run every single decision by me. If they have the context that I have, then they now are able to work autonomously and independently and without me, and I can focus again on different, more impactful things that might help us in the future or just run more effectively as a team. So I think it all comes down to trust. But in order to get trust, I think the easiest and fastest way there is to be a little vulnerable. And for me, being transparent worked really well to building this team. There was nothing that I felt that they couldn't know, that there were secrets or things that going on that they weren't privy to. And obviously in companies, there's always those kind of executive secrets, we'll call them. But especially if they were not consequential, I tried as often as I could to let them in as soon as I could so that they could start making decisions that aligned with our new plans or the decisions we were going to be making.
Yeah, well, and as you're talking, I wonder how important is the culture of the company to allow you to do that? Like transparency, we can say transparency, that makes total sense. I get it. But then there are companies who block that kind of transparency. The culture, spoken or unspoken, kind of says hold back. What do you think is the role of culture in it, in establishing yourself or your leadership style, I guess?
Yeah, I think culture is big, but there's also microcultures within any company. Like every team has its own microculture. So even if I would say like my team, our microculture wasn't a perfect lined up to our company culture. Again, they were a bit more transparent. Other teams in the company were a lot more or less transparent than I was with my team, but also contextually and like given what my team worked on, it made sense that they had more information and that they needed this information. It actually did affect their day-to-day work. And sometimes, I got in trouble for that as a leader for sharing too much, but I also think it really empowered my team. So sometimes you have to make some trade-offs and decide what you want the culture of your team to be. And also I feel like it trickles out, like especially if you have a really strong culture within your team, other teams that you're interacting, they see that, they want to learn from it, they will pick up certain cadences or routines or things that you're doing on your team, and that trickles out and that becomes the company culture as well. So it's kind of also, in my opinion, it's like create the culture that you want to see on your team and in the company as well. And you got to be careful with that. Like there's always lines and you have to know when to cross them and when to not cross them. But I think especially if the overall company culture is not a perfect fit for how you want to lead, you do have a lot of control with even just the few people that you interact with, whether that's a defined team or if that's just your leadership style.
Mm. Yeah, because I've worked with organizations that were like, let's say 15,000 people, and you're working with a group of 8 on a team. It's really cool to see the impact of coaching on that group of 8. But what I found was it's hard for them to keep that consistency in their approach, their coach approach, because it gets drowned out by the culture that may not support the coach approach. So I wonder, like, for you as an external coach, what do you think is like, if let's say you're hired to work with a team like that within a huge culture of 15,000, that there, what would be some things you want to look for? And I don't know if you have the answers. I'm just wondering, like, if you were to consider that now.
Yeah, for me, a big piece of this, I think, is that leadership team. They are the tastemakers of the company. What they say goes ultimately is what's going to get distilled down into all the different areas of the teams. Like you can work really closely with, one branch of this large team and create a really great culture there, but it's not going to have the same trickle effect that getting the management team or the leadership team aligned on what is the change that you want to make and why are we making that and how to do that with your teams. That will have huge trickle down effects. And the cool thing about that too is that they're going to take this core concept and it'll trickle down to the teams in very different ways. Leaders will apply that using their own unique style, and you can kind of see how different teams almost interpret this culture or the change that you're trying to make. I see this a lot, like thinking about like implementing AI into companies and the change management that's going to take, going from not having AI in your internal operations to adding them. There's a lot of fear baked into that. And so if you don't have the top of the food chain really bought into that, or even worse, like working against it, then it's never going to like spread out. But if you can get really good alignment with that management team, and I think that's a really good opportunity again for team coaching to really make sure everyone is on the same page, then you have a bit more control of how that trickles down and eventually spreads to the rest of the company and eventually becomes that company culture.
Yeah. One of the questions I often ask when I go into work with teams is, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the current temperature around coaching in the organization? Like wanting to know a little bit about like how much do people buy into the coaching culture? And then the other thing you said, which I thought, which I agree with, is that on that operational level, that's where the real coaching happens. That's where I think the biggest impact is. Although it is a trickle down, it has to be, like you said, for buy-in. I do see the benefit of taking that coach approach with the team leaders on the operational level, not necessarily like the C-suite and the higher
Yeah.
level of the organization.
One thing that I always kind of say there is like operations cannot be optional. Like I've seen so
Mm.
much change management fail because they're like, okay, well, we're going to try out this new tool and like pick it up if you want to or not. And then you have inconsistent use of a tool. We also see this with schools adopting our technology that we're making, and we're trying to help them obviously get set up so that they will continue purchasing our software year after year. But the schools that, you know, are like, okay, this is going to be hard, but we're going all in and we'll be here, we'll support you. There'll be resources, training, but we're doing this and it's not optional. They are up and running so much faster than even the most tech advanced schools that have been using our products or technology in their schools for years and years and years. Because there's that inconsistent adoption, it just never quite takes off. And so that to me, with a lot of like this change, is like, make it not optional, but you also have to then support that transition as well. Like if you're gonna kind of mandate it, you also have to follow it up and make sure that there is the training and resources. And so I think this applies to coaching, it applies to adopting new tools, it applies to adopting AI, like any of that change management within a company. You kind of have to go all in and mandate it for it to really take off as quickly as possible, is one thing that I've really seen over and over again, both trying to get tools into schools, which is what I work with now, as well as just trying to get tools and operations and change internally within our company as well.
Mm. Oh yeah, I love that. I remember, was it Good to Great? Uh, Jim Collins. He said, I forget, I read it somewhere where he said it, if you leave the back door open, there's always an exit plan, right? Like, so that I love what you said about the not making it optional. And that also speaks to clear vision, uniting people under that clear vision. Options are often uncertainty comes with that, and this lack of clarity. So, and I really believe that the team coach's role is very much to align people, bring connection to the team. When we look at team, the average team has like upwards of 60 relationships on it. If you think of all the connections between all the different people and the leader, and so, how do we bring all of those relationships together under that umbrella? I think it's super exciting, and yeah, happy to see you do that. So, how ready do you feel to embark on entrepreneurship? You must have. I'm curious to know what you did. What did you learn from the environment you've been in for the last 8 years about being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I have learned so much. I feel so prepared, which
Yeah.
is crazy. I feel like a lot of people don't have that luxury, but like I said, I had been with this company since they were a teeny tiny in person startup. And then COVID happened, and overnight we were in the right place at the right time. Our company grew from a 20-person in office startup to a over 100-person international fully remote
Wow.
company with funding. And so we changed drastically overnight, learned a lot from that experience. And then we had to go through 2 rounds of downsizing. And then I got to join the executive team after that. So I've kind of got to see it through so many ups and downs, and things going right and things going horribly wrong. And being a small startup and just the person that I am, I really tried to like get my hands dirty however I could, like learn as much as I could from all the different functional leaders throughout my time here. So I feel well versed in not only entrepreneurship, but like, the basics of how to market, the basics of how to build software, how to organize my time. Has been really cool to see this, like, it feels like a lifetime of experience that got condensed down into a short little 8-year career here. And it's really cool to be able to take all that learning. The more and more that I'm talking to founders, that I'm talking about my business, it's really evident to me that I'm ready. And obviously, there's going to be things that I don't know, and probably some bit of delusion here, but there's always stuff you can learn. But
Entrepreneur without being delusional.
exactly, yeah.
To a
And
little bit, an extent.
yeah, the other thing that I have really proved to myself, again, I kind of mentioned, like, I literally became a director overnight, and they were like, okay, give us a strategy. And have never made a strategy, let alone have a team, let alone look at all of this stuff. So I learned it all really, really quickly, and I taught myself. And I think that piece of just like, oh, if I don't know it, like I can learn it. There's nothing I can't learn, gives me, I think, so much freedom that if something scary comes up and I have never seen that before, I never got to experience it in my career, then like, especially with technology today, like you can learn anything. And that to me is so powerful that it makes everything seem less scary when there's just a course or a like using ChatGPT to explain concepts to me or point me in the right direction. But there's so much content and knowledge out there now that, and that's the really cool thing about AI kind of democratizing knowledge is I'm not scared of anything because I know how to learn and I know how to teach myself and I know that I can figure it out along the way. And that is really exciting. I love learning and trying new things. So it all seems like a really fun, exciting adventure that, again, I'm certainly a bit delusional, but we'll figure it out.
Well, I do remember, one of the comments in our last class together was the energy that you brought to the group was always super positive and, and very on the bright side of things, which I can see, is how you're approaching this. So what's the vision, like the ideal? If you look back 10 years from today, what has to happen for you to feel like this was a success for you?
For me, a lot of it's getting back to those core values, I think, is a lot of actually what led me to leave my current position in search of
Mm.
freedom and authenticity and having more control over how I'm spending my day. It never, ever since I got like my first job, I just hated that I had to be there for the sake of being there. Like I could do my job in 30 minutes. Like, why do I have to sit here all day? And so to me, that was something that I feel like I've always been yearning for was just more autonomy over my day. And I don't mind that as an entrepreneur, like especially at the beginning, I'm going to have to work probably more than I'm working now, but at least I have control over when I'm sitting at the desk and when my energy levels are their highest and when I'm mentally at my best, that I can be doing good work. And then when I'm not, I can go run errands. I can go to the gym. I can do life and get to experience that as well. So um, that to me is what I'm really looking forward to. It's what led me to leave this current position. And yeah, just looking at the core values really has been a guiding light for me. And I think that will ultimately determine my success for myself looking back is like, did I get the freedom that I'm looking for? Do I feel authentic in how I'm leading and how I'm leading the team, whether that's just me or eventually a bigger team? Do I feel like I have this community? Am I building community around me while I'm doing that? Like those are the things, like really looking at those core values and do I feel good about those? That to me, I think is what success would look like to me.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of really great outcomes. I'm curious about what does the business look like for you if you're, looking back again 10 years, what does the business look like that you've built?
I honestly don't know. And that I think is really exciting. I think there's a lot of really, to me, really exciting change coming our way in the corporate world with emerging technologies. And there's going to be drastic changes to the workforce and how we work and why we work and what we work for, what those full-time roles look like, if those even exist. And so that to me is like, the most fascinating thing. That's what I spend a lot of time reading is this future of work. And so
Mhm.
that is really what I'm trying to build towards. But when you're building towards this future nebulous idea, you don't really know what it's going to look like. Like, are apps going to be a thing? I don't know. What is coaching going to look like? Is it going to move back more in person or is it going to stay virtual? Is there going to be new technology that makes it more interactive or engaging? Um, so I'm really trying to leave kind of like the um, the method or the media of what I'm trying to create open so that it can adapt to kind of this new world. But for me, um, the business itself is I really want to think about the team that I have, and are they aligning to these core values that I set out, that I felt were misaligned, my own values misaligned from the companies that I had been in? Can I build a company in a different way that does align to that, and find people that do want to work in this way and find a lot of satisfaction in this? So I've put a lot more work, I would say, into how I want to run the company rather than what the company actually is, like essentially its
Yeah.
product is. And I think that will evolve over time as technology evolves, but the core of just treating people like people, and that this is just a job and you have a whole life outside of this, and I hope you come and want to solve really cool problems and be really creative at work, but at the end of the day, whenever that might be, you go home and do really cool things at home as well. So that to me, like, that is what I daydream about, is how I would run a company that feels different, that really takes into account the people who work there.
So then, in your experience, what have you seen as the most important quality when you're hiring? Like, what are you hiring for?
Ooh, that's a good question. For me, it's always been, I feel like, that innate curiosity around that kind of like, oh, I can learn it. Like, you don't have to know everything, but can you learn it? Can you adapt? Can you look at the problem that we're solving and work with others to come up with a really cool solution? And that kind of just go getter kind of attitude of like, I might not know it, but I'll figure it out, and I want to learn and grow along the way. That is always stuff that have aligned with me and how I run a team. So it's also stuff that I feel like I'm looking for my own team of people. Like, I want people who want to learn and who want to grow and who want to work autonomously and solve problems, but also work collaboratively and be part of this community. Um, like, again, a reflection of kind of those core, my own core values, which is how I lead my team. You want people that are a good match to that, that you want to invest your energy into helping them grow. And it's not a perfect fit for everyone, because people are different, and there's a team out there that's a really great fit for them that aligns really closely with their values. But yeah, I think that kind of innate curiosity and I'll figure it out, I can figure anything out kind of attitude is what really resonates with me.
Well, that's really cool. I mean, I really love hearing your excitement, and I love the experience that you're bringing to this endeavor is really it's rich with a lot of different experiences. Like, you seem to have really grown with the company over those 8 years. Um, what? So I know we have very little time left, but I wanted to ask you, what did the coaching journey is all about questions, it's all about reflection. We ask you to do those reflections on yourself before you do them with others. What would you say is one thing you learned about yourself in becoming a coach?
Probably the biggest thing was that I don't think I was listening before. I don't think I knew how to listen effectively before. Uh, and I think that has been just like, it feels just like humans 101 of like how to interact with each other. But I feel like this is not something that you actually learn explicitly, especially in like your K-12 education, but is so valuable. And I definitely wasn't doing a good job. It's still a skill that I feel like I'm very actively working on and conscious of. But that was a huge kind of, like, it felt like the glass shattering almost, where you're just like, oh my God, I'm not listening to people. Like, how can I say that I think I'm a great people manager and a great friend and a great human, but like, can you even say that if you're not listening to people? Like, those are the people, like, it doesn't, I always say too, it doesn't matter how good you think you are as a people manager. It matters the people that you're leading. And again, your friends and family and the people around you, if you're not listening to them, like, how isolating. So I think that was the biggest learning for me, and as something that I've seen kind of trickle out, again, not just in coaching, but in like every little corner of my life, of just trying to be more present and a better listener and better presence there for people. I think the other big thing with that presence is um, like I have been diagnosed with ADHD for a couple years now, and being in the being present was not something that I actually realized I wasn't doing until recently. My head is always out spinning on other topics, doing other things, making lists of random sorts. And I've had like, especially in the last couple of weeks, to be like, I'm out for dinner with my friends and I'm making like a grocery list in my head. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, be present, like be here with these amazing people that you are taking time to be here with. So that's been so valuable. But again, this seems like, yeah, listening and being present feels like human 101. Like this should be basic core skills that I feel are missing in a lot of people. And I honestly didn't know that until going into this course, that those areas weren't as strong as I would like them to be. And they're still not, still something I'm working on, but at least now I'm conscious of it.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever arrive at being a good listener. I think it's a journey. You just keep having to cultivate it. Um, we just had a couple of classes recently, actually. In their check-ins at the beginning of the class, they each shared how their surrounding like relationships, whether it was work or home, all noticed their level of listening had changed. Like their presence for them had changed. And I thought that was so neat too. Because I think the greatest gift that coaching gives you is the opportunity to affect the relationships that are the most important to you. Not
Mm-hmm.
just like the people you're coaching and the people at work. That's great too. But you get to really transform your relationships with your kids, with your spouse, with your friends, with your family. Like it's all, you know, like you said, it should be human 101. I love that.
Yeah, I've always said too, like for up until this course, anytime I love when people would come to me for advice or to tell me their problems. I'm also just a nosy person and I love to hear it. But my response always was, the only thing I could ever come up with was like, oh, that sucks. And that's, and I'm just like, obviously no one's going to come to me for advice or to vent if that's always what my response was. And that was like one of the first weeks in coaching that like clicked. I'm like, oh my God, that is like, I now know how to respond when people are coming to me with their problems. I now have something a bit more eloquent than that sucks.
Well, it's very empathetic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, well, and I always said it's like a 2 millimeter shift. It's not these huge concepts. It's not, people struggle with the unlearning of their habitual ways of being and these patterns that we develop over time that are conscious and subconscious. And so I think that's the struggle. It's stepping into new patterns and identifying the old patterns and going, oh gosh, I never even realized I did that. Like that to me is those aha moments that really make the difference in coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much. I'd love for you to tell people where they can reach out to you if they want to, if they can find you on LinkedIn, or is there an email or a website that you want to offer?
Yeah, Morgan Patzelt, basically everywhere that you can find me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Substack. I have a website. So yeah,
Okay.
type in my name and you'll be able.
Too. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's a unique name, so I'm the only one. So if you find me, that is me, and I'd be, yeah, so happy to um, learn more about people's experience, either being a people manager and not knowing what to do, or having bad people managers and kind of what you wish you knew, wish your manager had known, or working with companies or leaders to kind of upskill that area of their teams. I'm really, really excited to be jumping into this area. It's something that I've always like picked up pieces throughout the company just because I've found it so interesting around just like how to bring enjoyment, alignment, empowerment at work. And I'm really excited that that's my full-time job now. And that's the problem that I get to chase and get to help people solve.
Hmm. Well, if you could end this conversation with one thing you would want the world to know about, I don't know if it's coaching, but maybe it's what you have to offer, what would it be?
I was actually reflecting on this. This is more related to people management than coaching, but one thing that I learned over and over and over again through stumbling through as a people manager, trying to teach myself, is that people management is not one size fits all.
Mm.
And that if you are not able to connect with someone on your team, try another approach. People are multifaceted, they have different wants, fears, desires. Learn them, understand them, and try something else. And that whole concept of people management is not one size fits all. It also applies to you as a leader as well. You don't have to look or act a certain way. You just have to be authentic to yourself. Like, people know when you're being fake and when you're being true. And if you can find a leadership style that takes your best, most authentic traits and leverages them, that's how you're really going to get buy-in, rather than pretending to be some sort of persona of a leader that you've been told is effective. So that is something that every single time I stumbled as a people manager, I reminded myself, this is not one size fits all. I need to try something else. This person needs something different, and I need to try a different approach with them. And what worked for me or what worked for someone else is not going to work for everyone. And that's okay. And that's what makes, to me, this job really fun, is that you get to learn people so innately and get to help them achieve success as they are, again, with them being their authentic selves as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. So wise for what you seem so young.
Thank you.
So much wisdom. Yeah. Yeah. And I think part of what you're saying about, not one size fits all, the idea that when you approach with, you know, if I knew this person absolutely wants to be here, if I absolutely believe that this person wants to be here and wants to learn and wants to contribute to the team, how would I approach them? Because I think we often approach these things from a defensive point of view when it's not working right away. The connection's harder to achieve. And when we can step into that, unconditional positive regard mindset of coaching, that has really been an eye opener in the work that I've done anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And that
thank
it's a
you.
you problem also. It's not a them problem.
Yes,
It's
yes.
um like,
What can
it's
I
not
do
that,
differently? Yeah.
yeah, if you have someone not resonating on your team, it's your problem, not their problem. So finding a way to meet with them and really come to a shared understanding of what they want, because there's probably, again, some fear, some need or desire or something that's driving their behavior. And the better you can understand them, the better you're able to address it and get them aligned and get them empowered and moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Well, thank you so much for this time. It was so nice to have this one-on-one with you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you so much, Natalie.
Yeah, we'll let you know when it's posted.
All right. Can't wait.